I'm Tara Jo Holmberg. I'm professor of environmental science and biology at Northwestern Connecticut Community College. I'm the 2021 STEM Achievement Award honoree. So we humans are connected to the environment in all ways, shapes, and forms. It's in the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. And sometimes I think in our day-to-day lives, we get separated from this idea that we are of the environment and part of the environment. And so I think to address many of the problems that we have, including things like climate change and toxic pollution and food insecurity and all these other things, that in order to get to being able to make decisions, these really important decisions that we need to be making now, it takes becoming connected again to our environment, to kind of nature, and understanding that we are not apart from it, that we are a part of it. And as much as we affect it, it will in turn affect us. But in terms of working with adults and getting them back engaged with nature, there are a few things that involve changing mindsets. And one of the things I love to do with my students is to have them change the language that they use. So many of my students come into my classes and they have never really spent a lot of time outside. And so one of the things that we do is we don't use certain words. We don't use words like gross. We don't use words like disgusting. Instead, we use words like interesting, so that when they get out there into the field, whether we're in a river, in a forest, or we're doing something in a lab that is maybe a little uncomfortable, that they start to change their language, and by changing their language, they start to change their mindset. And they're willing to explore further. There were a number of disparities that came even more to light during the pandemic, the largest likely being internet access, having computers at home, things that made it harder for a lot of students to be able to do remote learning. We also know that throughout the pandemic that it was very difficult for families to kind of balance work, school, all of these other responsibilities, distractions that happen when you're learning from home. I really do want to give a shout out to all of the educators, librarians, tech support, counselors across the country and beyond for all of the amazing work that they did through the pandemic. We as educators, put our all into this. When it comes to educators, justice, diversity, equity, and inclusivity, so JEDI work, should be a career-long, lifelong process. And inclusive teaching helps STEM as a field in all ways. So by going to workshops, by learning through self-exploration, by doing implicit bias training, by reading, all of these things can help to make our classrooms more inclusive. And then by sharing and talking and collaborating with other educators and learning from one another, all of these things can all help to make STEM less exclusive and more inclusive in the end. Thank you, science.